by the committee. Without objection, that is so ordered. Finally, as a reminder, the committee will use an electronic voting system for any recorded votes, and my intention is to hold the first vote open for 5 minutes, and then subsequent votes will be open for 2 minutes, or upon discussion with the ranking member, we'll need to adjust down. We may need to adjust down to 1 minute, and if we decide to, we may do so. Today, the committee is considering 2 items: the fiscal year 2025 views and estimates of the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, and House Concurrent Resolution 83, authorizing the use of the Capitol grounds for the National Peace Officers Memorial Service and the National Honor Guard and Pipe Band exhibition. Our first item for consideration is the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure's fiscal year 2025 views and estimates. I call up the views and estimates, and without objection, the first reading will be dispensed with. The views and estimates is now considered as read and open for amendment at any point. I'd recognize myself for 5 minutes to give a statement. Last year, the committee had a very busy and productive, successful year. We reported out 47 bills, and we will work to continue that productive success through 2024. Last year, the committee advanced legislation to authorize the Federal Aviation Administration, which is critical as we seek to improve the United States aviation system. We also advanced legislation to strengthen federal pipeline safety programs and the transportation of United States energy and fortify the ability of the Coast Guard to carry out its critical missions. But we still have plenty of work to do to move these bills forward and get them signed into law. This year, the committee will also draft and consider the next Bipartisan Water Resources Development Act, or WRDA. We've held multiple hearings and solicited input from stakeholders and House members, resulting in over 1,800 submissions into the committee's WRDA portal. It is important to maintain the 2-year cycle of passing WRDA to authorize projects for ports, locks and dams, inland waterways, flood protection, and to provide needed direction to the Army Corps of Engineers. I remain concerned about the administration's executive overreach, including the Federal Highway Administration's final rule to implement greenhouse gas performance measures, and the Environmental Protection Agency and the Corps of Engineers' final rule to implement the revised Waters of the United States definition. Given this, the committee will also continue the important work of conducting oversight and holding the administration accountable for its policies. Notably, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, enacted last Congress, providing $1.2 trillion, more than half of which went to programs under this committee's jurisdiction. Our ongoing oversight efforts will help the committee as we prepare for the next highway bill in the next Congress, and I look forward to the House playing a very robust role in this process and for the committee to develop the next surface transportation authorization bill in a bipartisan manner, like our work on the FAA reauthorization. I appreciate Ranking Member Larson for working with this, and I urge my colleagues to support the views and estimates for fiscal year 2025. And with that, I now recognize Mr. Menendez for a statement on views and estimates.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for working with us on the budget views and estimates. We know that while the report reflects a bipartisan effort, not all members of the committee will agree with every aspect of the report. This report serves as a starting point for our efforts in the second session of the 118th Congress. We have had a productive first session, but more work lies ahead of us, including drafting another Water Resources Development Act, continuing to monitor implementation of the bipartisan infrastructure law, and getting the Federal Aviation Administration reauthorization, Coast Guard reauthorization, and pipeline safety programs all across the finish line. I believe these views and estimates reflect our desire to continue working in a bipartisan and productive manner. I urge my colleagues to join me in supporting the fiscal year 2025 budget views and estimates. Thank you, and I yield back.
Do any other members wish to be recognized?
Mr. Chair.
Statement. Mr. Stauber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank you for your leadership. I want to thank Ranking Member Larson as well. And I follow Mr. Menendez's comments about working together in a bipartisan fashion. I appreciate the Democrats working with us on getting this passed in a bipartisan fashion. I am very, very happy, again, to support this, especially number 2, where it authorizes the use of Capitol grounds for the National Peace Officers Memorial Service and the National Honor Guard and Pipe Band exhibition, especially after yesterday in Burnsville, Minnesota. I attended the funeral of 2 police officers and a fire paramedic from Burnsville that were murdered by a suspect, and we cannot forget the lives of the men and women lost in law enforcement that are called to service, and they never know if they're going to go home alive at the end of the night. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your leadership.
Do any other members wish to be recognized for a statement? Seeing none, are there any amendments to the views and estimates for fiscal year 2025? Hearing none, the question is now on adoption and favorable reporting of the views and estimates for fiscal year 2025. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed signify by saying nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The views and estimates for fiscal year 2025 are adopted. Pursuant to House Rule X, Clause 4, I'd ask unanimous consent that the fiscal year 2025 views and estimates as adopted by the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure be submitted to the Committee on Budget, and without objection, that is so ordered. Our next item for consideration is House Concurrent Resolution 83. I'd ask unanimous consent to discharge the Subcommittee on Economic Development, Public Buildings, and Emergency Management from further consideration of House Concurrent Resolution 83, and without objection, that is so ordered. I now call up the resolution for consideration, and without objection, the first reading of the resolution is dispensed with. The resolution is now considered as read and open for amendment at any point. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes on a statement on the resolution, and I also very much want to thank Subcommittee Chairman Perry and Ranking Member Titus for their leadership in this resolution. House Concurrent Resolution 83, it honors our nation's fallen law enforcement officers who have died in the line of duty last year with a memorial service, which happens here on the Capitol grounds. Every day, our police officers show up to protect and serve, keeping our families and our businesses and our communities safe. Unfortunately, too many of our police officers are demonized and disparaged for doing one of the hardest and most important jobs in the country, and it's a job that continues to grow more dangerous. We all owe our gratitude to these police officers who continue to serve honorably and despite these challenging times. This memorial service is one small way to thank and honor the men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice. And I'd urge support for this resolution. Now I recognize Mr. Menendez for 5 minutes for his statement on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I join you in supporting the passage of House Concurrent Resolution 83, which was introduced by our colleagues, Representative Scott Perry of Pennsylvania and Representative Dina Titus of Nevada, the chair and ranking member, respectively, of the Subcommittee on Economic Development, Public Buildings, and Emergency Management. This resolution authorizes the use of the Capitol grounds for the 43rd Annual National Peace Officers Memorial Service on May 15, 2024. The event, which is hosted by the National Fraternal Order of Police, will honor the federal, state, and local law enforcement officers who lost their lives while performing their duties in 2023. In addition to the families and friends of the deceased, event organizers expect 25,000 police officers from around the country to be in attendance. Mr. Chairman, I support this bipartisan resolution, and I yield back.
I now recognize the resolution sponsor, the Economic Development, Public Buildings, and Emergency Management Subcommittee Chair, Mr. Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm proud to have introduced this resolution along with Subcommittee Ranking Member Titus. This resolution authorizes the use of the Capitol grounds for the 43rd Annual National Peace Officers Memorial Event to honor law enforcement officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice. These men and women put their uniforms on each day to serve and protect our communities and our families. Unfortunately, violent crime continues to be a daily tragedy in this country, even more so now with the foreign criminal element pouring in from around the globe. It is critical for us to recognize that police officers are doing an extremely difficult and dangerous job day in and day out to keep our citizens safe, and oftentimes for little in return. To all the law enforcement officers who put on the badge each day and who wear it with honor and pride, we say thank you and we support you. This resolution is just one small way that we can demonstrate our support for these officers and their families and honor the men and women who lost their lives in the line of duty in 2023. I urge my colleagues to support this resolution. I yield the balance, Mr. Chairman.
I now recognize the resolution's minority-sponsored. Subcommittee Ranking Member, Ms. Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Concurrent Resolution 83 authorizes the use of the Capitol grounds for the 43rd Annual National Peace Officers Memorial Service and the National Honor Guard and Pipe Band Exhibition. As the ranking member of the subcommittee oversees this, it's my honor to carry the resolution along with Subcommittee Chairman Mr. Perry. The memorial service, which will be held on May 15th, will be coordinated with the architect of the Capitol and with the Capitol Police. It will honor law enforcement officers who made this ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty during this past year, 2023. We cannot bring back those we've lost, but we can honor the sacrifice they made to keep ourselves, our loved ones, and our communities safe. I join my colleagues in expressing my condolences to the families, friends, and colleagues of these public servants, and all of those who mourn the loss of the brave men and women whose duty and sacrifice will be commemorated at this year's memorial. I urge my colleagues to show the same support, vote for the resolution, and I yield back.
Does anyone else wish to be heard on the resolution? Seeing no one, we are now considering the resolution for amendments. Are there any amendments to House Concurrent Resolution 83? Hearing none, the question is now on the adoption and favorable reporting of House Concurrent Resolution 83 to the House of Representatives. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed signify by saying nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. And House Concurrent Resolution 83 is agreed to and will be favorably reported to the House. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming in and participating in today's markup. I would ask unanimous consent that each measure ordered and reported today be reported as a single amendment in the nature of a substitute incorporating all amendments adopted, and without objection, that is so ordered. I ask unanimous consent that the staff be authorized to make all necessary technical, clarifying, conforming changes to each of the measures ordered and reported today to reflect the actions of the committee, and without objection, that is so ordered. Pursuant to House Rule 22, Clause 1, I'd ask unanimous consent the chairman or his designee be authorized to offer such motions as may be necessary in the House to go to conference with the Senate on the legislation adopted today or any similar measure. Without objection, that is so ordered. And I'd ask unanimous consent that the chairman, after consultation with the ranking member, have authority to strike or revise any provision of the measures ordered reported today that would cause a sequential referral to another committee or that would cause the bill to be subject to a Budget Act or Rule 21 cut-go point of order. And without objection, that is so ordered. And pursuant to House Rule 11, Clause 2L, I'd ask unanimous consent that all members of the committee have at least 2 calendar days in which to file any supplemental, minority, additional, and dissenting views on the legislation adopted today. And without objection, that is so ordered. And pursuant to Rule 6 of the rules of the Committee on Transportation Infrastructure, I note the presence of a quorum for actions taken on all committee business. And with that, the Committee on Transportation Infrastructure has completed its business, and the committee is adjourned. So thank you all again for coming out. Ranking Member Larson is at the White House. He couldn't be here, and I just want to point that out too. He's over there working on a piece of legislation that the Transportation Committee has been doing. So with that, the committee is adjourned.